The Galactic Council meeting hall floated in the void between star systems, a massive crystalline structure that sparkled against the darkness of space. Inside, representatives from 27 different alien species gathered around a holographic display showing a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Commander Vexhai of the Zorvith Empire stood at the center, his four arms crossed in a gesture of supreme confidence. The Zorvith were known throughout the galaxy as master conquerors, having subjugated dozens of worlds over the past 1,000 years. His scaled skin shimmered under the artificial lights as he addressed the assembly. "The inhabitants call their world Earth," Vexhai announced, his voice carrying the arrogance of countless victories. "Our scouts report they are a primitive species, barely capable of leaving their own atmosphere. They still rely on chemical propulsion and primitive nuclear technology." The other species in the council chamber chittered and clicked in amusement. The Nexari ambassador, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, pulsed with colors that indicated dismissive humor. Another easy conquest for the mighty Zorvith. It transmitted telepathically to all present. Vexhai's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Indeed, our analysis shows they call themselves humans. Bipedal, soft-skinned, no natural armor or weapons. They lack telepathy, have no energy manipulation abilities, and their physical strength is laughable compared to even our weakest warriors." The council reviewed the data streaming across the holographic displays. Images of human cities appeared, showing what the aliens considered primitive architecture. Their military equipment seemed antiquated compared to Zorvith plasma weaponry and shield technology. "They are divided into hundreds of separate nations," continued Vexhai, "constantly fighting among themselves over resources and ideological differences. They have not even achieved planetary unity, let alone developed faster-than-light travel." Ambassador Kretak of the Altari Collective, a species that resembled giant mantis creatures, leaned forward. "What about their defensive capabilities? Surely they must have detected our scout ships." Vexhai's four eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of contempt. "They have primitive radar and some orbital satellites, but nothing capable of detecting our cloaked vessels. Their most powerful weapons are nuclear devices that would barely scratch the hull of a Zorvith battlecruiser." The data continued to flow. Human biology appeared on the screens. Average height of 1.7 meters. Average lifespan of 80 Earth years, requiring constant intake of water and organic matter for survival. The aliens noted with amusement that humans needed 8 hours of unconsciousness called sleep every day. "They are remarkably fragile," observed Dr. Yilmasa, the Celestine Federation's chief xenobiologist. Her tentacles waved as she analyzed the biological data. "Their bodies are 70% water. They can die from a fall of just a few meters. Temperature variations of only 50 degrees can kill them. They have no redundant organs, no regenerative capabilities worth mentioning." The council chamber filled with various sounds of alien laughter. To species that could survive in the vacuum of space, regenerate lost limbs, or live for thousands of years, humans seemed almost pitifully weak. "There is one curious anomaly," Dr. Yilmasa added, her voice taking on a puzzled tone. "Their planet's ecosystem is surprisingly hostile. The variety of predators, diseases, and environmental hazards is unusual for a world that produced sapient life." Vexhai dismissed this with a wave of his upper arms. Irrelevant. Whatever minor challenges their world presented, they clearly overcame them through tool use and cooperation. Standard evolutionary pattern for weak species. The shadows of Nyx, a species that existed partially in subspace, whispered through the dimensions. "What of their culture? Their psychology?" "Primitive, but interesting," replied cultural analyst Thursday Moth of the Wanderer Confederation. "They create fictional entertainment about hostile alien invasions, which they invariably win through what they call human spirit and determination. Clear psychological compensation for their physical weakness." More data flowed across the screens. Human art, music, and literature were analyzed and dismissed as typical for a pre-contact civilization. Their religions spoke of gods and afterlives, their philosophies debated meaning and morality, their sciences slowly uncovered truths the Galactic Council had known for millennia. They do show unusual adaptability, noted Thursday Moth. They inhabit every climate zone on their planet, from frozen poles to scorching deserts. Most species tend to remain in their optimal environmental conditions. Desperation, HFY concluded. When you are weak, you must adapt or die. It is nothing we have not seen before in prey species. The Council reviewed military assessments. Human weapons technology was projectile-based. Their tactics still relied on visual targeting, and their fastest aircraft could barely exceed their own speed of sound. Space warfare was limited to their imagination, portrayed in entertainment but never realized. I propose we proceed with standard subjugation protocols, HFY announced. A demonstration of power in their major population centers should suffice. Once they see the futility of resistance, they will submit to Zorvith rule like all the others. The Council murmured agreement. The Zorvith had never failed in a conquest. Their empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. What could one small planet of primitive bipeds do against such might? Ambassador Zyx Theta of the Ancient Observers spoke up, their crystalline form chiming with each word. I urge caution. We know little of their actual combat capabilities. Perhaps more observation. Observation is for the timid, HFY interrupted. The Zorvith Empire was built on decisive action. These humans have had their time to develop. If they were capable of being a threat, they would have achieved interstellar travel by now. The Council voted, and the decision was nearly unanimous. Only the Ancient Observers abstained, as was their custom in military matters. Earth would be the next world to join the Zorvith Empire, its resources cataloged and exploited, its people assigned their place in the galactic hierarchy. As the Council dispersed, HFY remained, studying the blue planet rotating slowly in the hologram. Such a small world, so isolated in its corner of the galaxy. Its inhabitants had no idea what was coming. Prepare the invasion fleet, he commanded his subordinates. Standard complement. 1 dreadnought, 3 battle cruisers, 10 escort vessels. We launch in 7 cycles. His military advisor, Subcommander Dexville, hesitated. Commander, that seems minimal for a planetary conquest. HFY's mandibles clicked in irritation. You saw the data. They have no space defenses, no energy weapons, no shields. A single escort vessel could probably conquer them, but protocol demand a proper fleet. We must maintain appearances for the Council. As preparations began throughout Zorvith space, Earth continued its rotation, unaware. In human cities, people went about their daily lives. Scientists worked in laboratories, soldiers trained in military bases, children played in schoolyards. None of them knew that among the stars, their fate had been decided by beings who saw them as nothing more than another primitive species to be conquered. The Zorvith had studied human bodies and human technology. They had analyzed human culture and human history. But in their arrogance, they had made one crucial mistake. They had looked at what humans were, not what humans had overcome to become what they were. On Earth, in a dozen secret facilities, detection systems registered anomalies. Energy signatures that didn't match any known phenomena. Movement patterns in space that suggested artificial origin. The data was collected, analyzed, and quietly forwarded to those who needed to know. Humanity had always been good at pattern recognition. It was, after all, how they had survived on a world that seemed determined to kill them at every turn. The Zorvith fleet assembled at the edge of the solar system, confident in their superiority. They had conquered peaceful herbivores and aggressive carnivores alike. They had subjugated hive minds and individual species. They had faced energy beings and silicon-based life forms. But they had never faced a species forged in the crucible of Earth. They had never faced humans, and that would prove to be their fatal mistake. The Zorvith dreadnought Imperator's Wrath dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, followed by the rest of the invasion fleet. Commander Vexhai stood on the bridge, watching as the blue planet grew larger on the main viewing screen. All vessels report ready status, announced Subcommander Dexville. Invasion protocols are active. Shall we broadcast the surrender demand? Vexhai nodded, his four arms gesturing to the communication station. Broadcast on all frequencies they're capable of receiving. Let them know their new masters have arrived. The message went out in every Earth language, decoded from their primitive communication satellites. It was simple and direct. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. The Zorvith Empire had claimed Earth. Resistance would result in the destruction of major population centers. On Earth, the message was received simultaneously by every government, every military installation, and every civilian with access to communication devices. For a moment, the planet seemed to hold its breath. Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of panic, instead of immediate capitulation, Earth responded with a single, coordinated message. No. Vexhai blinked all four eyes in sequence, a sign of confusion. No. Just no. Confirmed, Commander, the communications officer replied. Single-word response from multiple sources. They refused to surrender. The bridge crew exchanged glances. This was unusual. Most primitive species either surrendered immediately or begged for negotiation. Simple refusal was oddly disturbing. Very well, Vexhai said, recovering his composure. Begin demonstration protocol. Target their largest population center. A single plasma bombardment should... Commander, the tactical officer interrupted, his scales shifting to a color of alarm. Multiple launch signatures detected from the planet's surface. On the main screen, thousands of points of light rose from Earth. Primitive chemical rockets, according to the sensors. Vexhai almost laughed. They're actually trying to attack us with those antiques? Our shields could withstand. The first missile reached the escort vessel Swift Conquest and detonated. It wasn't a nuclear warhead. It was something far more primitive and far more effective. A kinetic kill vehicle, nothing more than dense metal and explosive force, designed not to penetrate shields, but to overload them through sheer transfer of momentum. The Swift Conquest shields flared and died. Before they could recycle, a dozen more missiles struck home. The escort vessel, built for energy warfare and shield-dependent defense, crumpled like paper under the kinetic assault. Impossible! Vexhai roared. Recalibrate shields for kinetic impact. All vessels, evasive maneuvers. But Earth wasn't finished. From hidden silos and submarine platforms, from mobile launchers and orbital platforms the Zorvith had dismissed as primitive satellites, humanity's response continued. Not energy weapons, not exotic particles, just simple physics applied with devastating effect. Commander, detecting massive electromagnetic pulses, the science officer reported. They're using nuclear devices to generate EMPs. The Zorvith ships, so dependent on their advanced electronics, found their systems flickering. Shields wavered. Targeting computers struggled. In the chaos, more kinetic weapons found their marks. Then, the humans did something the Zorvith had never encountered in 1,000 conquests. Instead of defending their cities, they abandoned them. Emergency broadcasts went out across Earth. Evacuation Protocol 7. All citizens to designated shelters. Military personnel to hardened positions. They're willing to sacrifice their own cities? Dexville said in disbelief. But humans weren't sacrificing anything. They were choosing the battlefield. Cities could be rebuilt. Freedom could not be reclaimed once lost. From the moon's surface, weapons installations that had been disguised as research stations and mining facilities came online. Mass drivers, simple magnetic accelerators, began launching projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The Zorvith fleet, still struggling with the EMPs and kinetic barrage from Earth, found themselves caught in a crossfire. How do we not detect these installations? Vexhai demanded. They're not powered by fusion or antimatter, the science officer replied, fear creeping into his voice. Just simple solar panels and chemical batteries. Our sensors were calibrated for advanced energy signatures. It was then that Vexi began to understand their mistake. They had assumed primitive meant ineffective. They had assumed that a species without faster-than-light travel couldn't threaten ships that could cross galaxies. They had forgotten that warfare, at its core, was about applying force to achieve objectives. And humans, it seemed, were very good at applying force. The next phase of Earth's response began as scheduled. Military satellites, dismissed by the Zorvith as primitive communication relays, revealed their true purpose. Dozens of them were nothing more than containers filled with ball bearings, nails, and other debris. Simple explosive charges scattered this debris into carefully calculated orbits. The Zorvith battlecruiser Glorious Supremacy was the first to encounter these orbital mines. Traveling at orbital velocities, even a small piece of metal carried tremendous kinetic energy. The battlecruiser's shields, already strained from the EMP attacks, failed under the barrage of hypersonic shrapnel. "Commander, we're losing ships," Dexville reported. "The Glorious Supremacy is venting atmosphere. The Inevitable Victory reports critical damage to their hyperdrive systems." "Impossible." Vexi's four fists slammed onto his command console. "We are the Zorvith Empire. We have conquered 100 worlds." "Commander," the intelligence officer spoke up, his voice shaking. "I'm analyzing their tactics. These aren't the strategies of a peaceful species forced to defend themselves. These are tactics developed through extensive warfare. They've been fighting each other with these weapons for generations. They know exactly how to use them." The human response continued to escalate. Fighter aircraft, dismissed by the Zorvith as atmospheric toys, revealed another surprise. They carried no pilots. Earth had sent up drone swarms, each one carrying simple chemical explosives. They couldn't penetrate the larger ships' shields individually, but hundreds of them impacting simultaneously created overload conditions. From Earth's oceans, submarines launched ballistic missiles. From hidden bunkers, cyber warfare specialists began broadcasting signals designed to interfere with Zorvith communications. They couldn't hack the alien technology, but they could flood it with noise. "They're not trying to match our technology," the science officer realized. "They're exploiting our dependence on it. Our shields were designed for energy weapons. Our armor was built to dissipate heat. Our sensors were calibrated for advanced civilizations." Vexi watched his tactical display in growing horror. 3 escort vessels were gone. 2 battlecruisers were severely damaged. His own dreadnought's shields were holding, but the constant barrage was draining their power reserves faster than they could recharge. Then came the moment that would haunt him forever. On the main screen, a message appeared from Earth. Not a surrender, not a plea for mercy, but a simple statement. "You want to see what humans are capable of? Very well." The moon base mass drivers shifted targeting. Instead of firing at the fleet, they began launching projectiles at specific coordinates in empty space. The Zorvith couldn't understand why until their science officer screamed a warning. "They're creating a debris field in our hyperspace exit vector. If we try to retreat, we don't retreat." Vexi roared. "We are conquerors. We do not run from primitives." But his bridge crew was no longer listening. They had seen 3 ships destroyed by a species that wasn't supposed to have space weapons. They had watched their advanced technology neutralized by simple physics and chemical explosives, and now they realized they were trapped. The humans had studied the hyperspace entry point. They had calculated where ships would need to be to safely engage their faster-than-light drives, and they had filled that space with hypersonic death. "Commander," the communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving another transmission from Earth." On the screen appeared a human. Male, middle-aged, wearing what they would later learn was a military uniform. He spoke calmly, without anger or fear. "I am General Chun, speaking for the United Military Forces of Earth. You came here expecting to find prey. You found predators. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and each other. We learned to use every tool, every weapon, every strategy to survive. You studied our bodies and found them weak. You should have studied our history and found us strong. The general paused, and in that moment, Vexhai saw something in those human eyes that chilled him to his core. Not hatred, not fear, but calculation. The look of a predator deciding if prey was worth the effort. You have one chance, General Chen continued. Leave now. Tell your empire that Earth is off limits. We have shown you a fraction of what we're capable of. Don't make us show you the rest. The transmission ended. On the bridge of the Imperator's Wrath, alarms blared as more kinetic weapons impacted their shields. The pride of the Zorvith fleet, a dreadnought that had conquered dozens of worlds, shuddered under the assault of a species they had dismissed as primitive. And, in that moment, Commander Vexhai understood the truth. They had made the deadliest assumption possible in warfare. They had underestimated their enemy. They had judged humans by their technology, not by their nature. Humans were not prey that had never known predators. Humans were predators that had learned to use tools. And now the Zorvith Empire was learning what that meant. The bridge of the Imperator's Wrath shook violently as another barrage of kinetic weapons struck home. Warning lights painted the command center in reds and oranges as system after system reported strain beyond design specifications. Shields at 30%, the tactical officer shouted over the alarms. Hull breach on Deck 7. We've lost contact with battlecruiser Eternal Dominion. Commander Vexhai gripped his command throne with all four arms, his mind racing. Half his fleet was gone or crippled. The mighty Zorvith invasion force was being torn apart by chemical rockets and metal projectiles. It was incomprehensible. Sir, Subcommander Dexville approached carefully. Perhaps we should consider the human general's offer. A strategic withdrawal to reassess. You speak of cowardice? Vexhai snarled, but his hearts weren't in the rebuke. He could see the fear in his crew's eyes. These were veterans of a dozen conquests, and they were terrified. Another impact. The lights flickered. On the main screen, Vexhai watched as Earth's moon bases continued their relentless barrage. Every few seconds, another projectile accelerated to terrible velocities, turning simple metal into ship-killing weapons. Commander, the science officer's voice cracked with panic. I'm detecting movement from Earth's asteroid belt. Multiple contacts heading our way at high velocity. More kinetic weapons? No, sir. These have drive signatures. Primitive chemical thrusters, but... Commander, they're man vessels. The humans are coming to us. On the screen, dozens of small craft appeared. They looked almost laughably primitive compared to Zorvith technology. Welded metal, chemical rockets, projectile weapons. But Vexhai no longer felt like laughing. They modified mining vessels, the intelligence officer reported. Industrial equipment repurposed for war. Commander, I've been analyzing their history as you ordered. These humans, they've been at war with themselves for their entire recorded history. They've turned farming tools into weapons, transformed commercial aircraft into bombers. They excel at adaptation. The human vessels didn't try to match the remaining Zorvith ships in maneuverability. They didn't need to. They had calculated intercept courses and now coasted on momentum, saving their fuel for final attack runs. As they approached, they began launching their own projectiles, simple tungsten rods accelerated by magnetic coils. All batteries, target those vessels. Vexhai commanded. The Zorvith energy weapons lashed out, designed to overload shields and melt hull plating. But the human ships had no shields to overload. The beams that would have crippled advanced vessels simply burned through empty space or vaporized small sections of armor. The humans had built their ships with redundancy and empty space, accepting that they would take damage. They're not trying to survive, Dexville whispered in horrified understanding. They're trading their lives for successful attacks. The first human vessel reached attack range of the battlecruiser Unstoppable Force. Instead of firing weapons, it simply adjusted course slightly and accelerated to maximum burn. The battlecruiser's weapons destroyed it, but momentum carried the debris forward. Tons of metal and unexpended fuel slammed into the battlecruiser's shields at tremendous velocity. More human ships followed, each one a guided missile with a crew willing to die for their world. The Zorvith had encountered brave species before, but this was different. This wasn't desperation or fanaticism. This was calculated sacrifice, predators willing to die to protect their pack. Message from Earth, Commander, the communications officer announced. General Chan appeared again, his expression unchanged despite the battle raging in orbit above his world. Commander Vexhai, you're learning what humans are capable of when threatened. But let me educate you further. Are you familiar with the concept of mutually assured destruction? The screen changed to show missile silos opening across Earth. Hundreds of them. These are our nuclear arsenals, Chen continued. Weapons we built to destroy ourselves, held in check only by the certainty that using them meant our own death. We've lived under that shadow for generations. Death doesn't frighten us anymore. We've made friends with it. The implications hit Vexhai like a physical blow. They wouldn't. Oh, but we would. Chen's voice carried grim certainty. If you somehow defeat our conventional forces, if you land on our world, we'll burn it rather than let you have it. We'll poison the atmosphere, irradiate the soil, and turn Earth into a tomb. And when your empire comes to investigate what happened to their mighty fleet, they'll find a dead world and a warning. Another screen showed recordings from Earth's nature documentaries. Predators stalking prey, the violence of the natural world in vivid detail. You called us weak because we lack natural weapons, Chen continued. But we survive on a world full of things that had them. We learned to outthink them, outplan them, and outfight them. We took their strengths and made them ours. We were the skins of predators, used the poisons of prey, and harnessed the power of the atom itself. We are not weak, Commander. We are adaptable, and that makes us the deadliest thing you've ever encountered. The Imperator's wrath shuddered again. Shield strength was down to 15%. 2 more escort vessels had gone dark. The human mining ships continued their suicide runs, each death buying more damage to the invasion fleet. Commander, the intelligence officer spoke urgently. I've completed my analysis of human military history. They've never been united like this before. Their wars were always against each other, limiting their effectiveness. But we've given them a common enemy. We've united Earth predators into a single pack. Through the chaos, a new alert sounded. Hyperspace interdiction field detected, the navigation officer announced. The humans are using their damaged satellites and debris to create gravitational interference. We can't enter hyperspace safely. It was brilliant in its simplicity. The humans couldn't match Zorvith technology, so they turned physics itself into a weapon. Mass scattered in precisely calculated patterns created tiny gravitational anomalies. Any ship trying to enter hyperspace would be torn apart by the conflicting fields. We're trapped, Dexville said quietly. Vexhai looked at his tactical display. 5 ships remained of his proud fleet. All were damaged. Earth's response showed no signs of slowing. If anything, it was intensifying. More launches from the surface, more suicide runs from the asteroid belt, and now intelligence suggested submarines were surfacing to add their missiles to the barrage. Ow! Vexhai asked, his voice breaking. How do we misjudge them so badly? Because we look for the wrong things, the science officer replied. We measured their technology and found it primitive. We analyzed their bodies and found them fragile. But we didn't measure their will. We didn't analyze their determination. We saw prey where we should have seen predators. General Chen appeared on the screen one more time. You have 10 minutes to begin withdrawal, Commander. After that, we launch everything. Every nuclear weapon, every kinetic strike, every man and woman willing to die to keep our world free. 10 minutes to decide. Retreat with your remaining ships, or join the wreckage of those who underestimated humanity. The bridge fell silent except for the alarms. Vexhai looked at his crew, saw the defeat in their eyes. The Zorvith Empire had never retreated, never been beaten, but they had also never faced a species like humanity. Sir, Dexville prompted gently. Vexhai closed all 4 eyes, seeing the faces of the thousands under his command who had already died. Pride warred with survival. The mighty Zorvith fleeing from primitives. But The alternative was complete annihilation. "Begin withdrawal," he ordered, the words tasting like ashes. "All ships, emergency retreat protocols. Get us out of this death trap." As the battered remnants of the invasion fleet limped toward the edge of the interdiction field, Earth's barrage slowed but didn't stop. The humans were letting them leave, but reminding them of the cost of return. "Commander," the communications officer said. "Final message from Earth." Chen appeared one last time. "Tell your empire what happened here. Tell them that Earth is protected not by technology, but by the will of its people. We are the children of a hostile world, forged in conflict, united in purpose. We are humanity, and we are done being underestimated." The Imperator's wrath finally cleared the interdiction field and jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of 8 vessels and the shattered pride of the Zorvith Empire. In the emergency lighting of the damaged bridge, Vexhai made a decision that would change galactic history. "Open a channel to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "All frequencies, all encryption levels." "Sir," Vexville asked. "They need to know," Vexhai said quietly. "The galaxy needs to know. Humanity isn't prey. They're apex predators. And we woke them up." The message went out across the galaxy, reaching every species, every empire, every civilization that had looked at the small blue planet and seen an easy target. The mighty Zorvith Empire, conquerors of 100 worlds, had been defeated by a species that still used chemical rockets. On Earth, the debris of the battle began to burn up in the atmosphere, creating shooting stars across the night sky. In bunkers and shelters, humans emerged to see the lights and understand what they meant. They had won, not through superior technology, but through superior will. General Chun stood in the command center, watching the tactical displays confirm the alien retreat. Around him, men and women who had been prepared to die for their world slowly began to realize they would live to see another day. "Sir," his aide approached. "What now? They'll be back, won't they? With a bigger fleet?" Chun shook his head. "No, Lieutenant. They won't be back. We didn't just defeat them. We terrified them. We showed the galaxy that humanity is not to be trifled with." He paused, looking at the star maps showing the trajectory of the retreating fleet. "But we also showed them we're out here. The secret's out. Humanity exists, and we're dangerous. Things are going to change now. Should we prepare for more attacks?" "We prepare for everything," Chen replied. "But I don't think we'll face invasion again. We've proven that the cost is too high. Now we'll face something else. Respect. Fear. Maybe even alliance offers from species who want us on their side rather than against them." He smiled grimly. "Humanity just joined the galactic community, not as subjects or slaves, but as the apex predators we've always been. Let's see how the galaxy handles that." As Earth began to rebuild and recover, the message spread throughout known space. The Zorvith Empire officially declared Earth a quarantine zone, too dangerous for contact. Other species took note. The small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system was unremarkable no more. Humanity had announced itself to the universe in the only language the universe understood: strength. And the universe, for the first time in eons, felt fear. The apex predators of Earth were no longer hidden. They were no longer alone. And they were no longer to be underestimated. In the depths of space, on 1,000 worlds, military planners revised their assessments. Scientists reconsidered their definitions of advancement. And every species that had ever thought to conquer weaker civilizations added a new note to their files: humans do not engage.